She wore the wrong shoes. That's what they'd remember later. Not her face, not her voice, just those worn flats next to 200 pairs of heels that cost more than most people's rent. And the way her husband looked at her when she sat down, like he'd brought the help by mistake. The ballroom smelled like gardenias and money. White tablecloths, crystal that caught the light in ways that made you squint. Women who had their hair done that morning and their faces done years ago, all gathered for the Rosewood Heights annual charity luncheon. She didn't belong here. Everyone knew it the moment she walked in. But what they didn't know, what he didn't know, even though he'd been married to her for 6 years, was why she'd come at all. Because she hadn't wanted to. She'd tried to stay home. And when that didn't work, she'd worn the wrong shoes on purpose. That was the moment everything quietly began to unravel. This is a golden heart story for anyone who's ever walked into a room and felt like they were being measured. For anyone who's ever been underestimated. And for anyone who knows what it's like to be invisible. Even to the person who promised to see you. Before we go any further, tell me in the comments, have you ever been in a room where you knew you didn't belong? What did that feel like? Let's continue. Her name was Maya. 47 years old, nursing scrubs 5 days a week. Hands that still smelled faintly of antiseptic even after she scrubbed them raw. A woman who used to sing in the mornings and hadn't in years. She'd stopped noticing when that changed. Marcus, her husband, had noticed everything else though. He noticed when her shoes scuffed. When her voice got quiet at his firm's holiday parties. When she started saying, "You go ahead. I'll stay home more often than I'll be ready in 10. He was a corporate attorney. Charcoal suits. Cufflinks that had been his father's. A man who had worked very, very hard to get away from the neighborhood he grew up in. And who'd worked even harder to make sure no one remembered he'd ever been there. Maya remembered. She remembered when Marcus used to hold her hand under the table at dinner. When he used to say, "You good," just to chat. When he used to look at her like she was the only person in the room. Now he looked at her like she was a reminder of something he'd outgrown. The invitation had come in the mail 3 weeks ago. Heavy cardstock, gold embossing. The Rosewood Heights annual charity luncheon. Marcus had opened it at breakfast. "You don't have to come," he'd said. "Not I'd love for you to come. Not it'd mean a lot if you were there. Just you don't have to." Maya had folded her napkin. "I'll come." His jaw tightened. "Maya, it's a whole thing. You'd have to take off work. It's something to wear. It's not." "I'll come." He didn't argue. But she saw it. That flicker. Not anger. Shame. She told herself it didn't matter. She told herself she was imagining it. But the morning of the luncheon, when she came downstairs in the only dress she owned that still fits. Navy blue, 3 years old, clean but soft at the seams. Marcus looked at her for exactly 2 seconds. Then looked away. "You ready?" he asked. She wasn't. But she nodded. And when she slipped on her flats, comfortable, practical, wrong, he said nothing. He just opened the door. And she followed him out like she'd been doing for years. Into rooms where she was always just a little too late. A little too quiet. A little too air. The ballroom was full. 200 women in silk and thin gold jewelry. Men in tailored blazers. Waiters moving through the crowd with trays of sparkling water in wine glasses. Maya stood near the entrance, still holding her purse with both hands. Marcus was already gone. He'd seen someone from his firm. Todd, maybe, or Brandon, one of those names that sounded expensive. And he'd drifted toward the bar without looking back. She told herself that was fine. She told herself she'd find a seat. But when she stepped toward the tables, she felt it. The shift. Not loud. Not obvious. Just eyes. A woman in cream linen glanced at Maya's shoes. then whispered something to the woman beside her. Another turned slightly, just enough to make space feel smaller. Maya kept walking. She found her name card. Table 7. Middle of the room. When she sat down, the woman across from her smiled. It didn't reach her eyes. "Hi there," the woman said brightly. "I'm Diane. Are you with someone?" Maya's throat tightened. "My husband, Marcus, he's a—" "Oh, Marcus Chen, of course. He's wonderful." Diane's smile stretched wider. "And you're a—" "Maya." "Maya." Diane repeated it like she was tasting something unfamiliar. "That's lovely. And what do you do, Maya?" "I'm a nurse." "Oh." One word. But it landed like a period at the end of a sentence no one wanted to finish. Marcus returned 10 minutes later. He didn't sit next to her. He sat across the table, between Diane and a silver-haired man in a golf vest. He laughed at something the man said. He didn't look at Maya once. When the salads came, Diane leaned forward. "So Maya," she said sweetly, "how did you and Marcus meet?" Maya set down her fork. "At a community clinic. I was working intake. He was volunteering for a legal aid program." Diane's eyebrows lifted. "Volunteering?" She glanced at Marcus. "I didn't know you did that sort of thing." Marcus's face went flat. "That was a long time ago." Maya felt something crack. Not break. Just a crack. "He was good at it," she said quietly. Marcus finally looked at her. And for just a second, she saw something flicker. Guilt, maybe? Or anger? She wasn't sure anymore. The woman next to Diane, younger, blonde, wearing a bracelet that could have paid off a car, leaned in with a laugh. "Well, we all do charity work somewhere," she said, "but I have to say, Maya, you're brave coming here in a—" She gestured vaguely at Maya's outfit. "I mean, I couldn't pull off casual like that. I'd feel so exposed." Laughter. Polite. Sharp. Maya's hands folded in her lap. Marcus said nothing. And that silence, that was worse than anything anyone had said. The speeches started 20 minutes later. A woman in pearls stood at the podium and talked about fundraising goals and community impact and the importance of giving back. Maya stopped listening. She was looking at the program on the table. Rosewood Heights Annual Charity Luncheon. Benefiting local health initiatives. Sponsors listed on the back. Gold level, silver level, bronze, and at the very top, platinum sponsor the ML Chen Foundation. Maya's breath caught. She looked up. Marcus was staring straight ahead. Jaw tight. Hands folded. Not moving. The woman at the podium smiled. "And of course, we couldn't do any of this without our incredible platinum sponsor. The ML Chen Foundation has donated over $3 million to under-resourced clinics in the past 5 years alone." Applause. Diane leaned toward Marcus, beaming. "You never told us your family was so philanthropic." Marcus's smile was thin. "It's a private foundation." "Well, it's amazing." Maya's heart was pounding. She looked down at the program again. ML Chen Foundation. Founder and President Mylin Chen. Diane was still talking. "I just think it's so wonderful when families give back. Don't you? Especially families with the means to really make a difference." Maya stood. Not loudly. Not dramatically. She just stood. Every head at the table turned. "Excuse me," she said softly. And she walked toward the podium. Marcus's face went white. The woman at the microphone paused mid-sentence. Maya stepped up beside her. Her hands were shaking, but her voice wasn't. "I'm sorry to interrupt," Maya said, "but I think there's been a misunderstanding." 200 faces stared back at her. Diane's mouth was open. Marcus had half risen from his chair. Maya looked at him. Just him. "My name is Mylin Chen," she said. And the MLChin Foundation isn't a family trust. It's not inherited wealth. It's mine. Silence. I started it 11 years ago with a settlement I received after my brother died in a hospital that didn't have the equipment to save him. I was 29. I didn't know anything about nonprofits or fundraising or any of this. Her voice cracked. Just slightly. But I knew what it felt like to lose someone because the clinic couldn't afford what they needed. So I learned. She looked back at the room. I've worked as a nurse for 23 years. I still do. Because that's the work that matters to me. And every year the foundation funds medical equipment, training, and supplies for clinics that serve people who look like me, people who get overlooked. I didn't come here to make a scene. I came because my husband asked me to. And I wore these shoes because I wanted to see if anyone here would treat me differently if I didn't look like I belonged. Her eyes found Marcus again. Turns out I already knew the answer. She stepped down. The room was completely still. And then, one person started clapping. A woman in the back. Then another. Then the whole room. But Maya didn't stay to hear it. She walked out. Marcus found her in the parking lot. She was sitting on the curb near their car, arms wrapped around her knees. Maya, don't. He stopped. She didn't look up. You were embarrassed of me. That's not. You didn't sit next to me, Marcus. You didn't defend me. You let them make me feel small. I didn't know what to say. You could have said anything. Her voice broke. You could have said, that's my wife. You could have said, she's brilliant. You could have said. She finally looked at him. You could have just seen me. Marcus's face crumpled. I do see you. No. Maya shook her head. You see someone you used to know. Someone you married before you became this. She gestured at him. Before you became someone who's ashamed of where you came from. I'm not ashamed. Then why didn't you tell them about the foundation? Silence. Why didn't you tell me you were invited because of my work? His jaw worked. Because I didn't want them to think. What? Her voice was razor sharp now. That you married someone who mattered? Marcus flinched. That I needed you for your money. Maya stood slowly. I never needed you for my money, Marcus. Her eyes were wet, but she didn't wipe them. I needed you to be proud of me. She opened the car door. I'm going home. You can stay. Maya. I mean it. She got in. He stood there frozen. And she drove away. 3 days passed. Marcus slept in the guest room. Maya went to work. They moved around each other like strangers. On the 4th night, Marcus came home late. Maya was in the kitchen, reheating soup. He stood in the doorway. I went to the clinic today, he said quietly. She didn't turn around. The one on Elmhurst, where we met. Silence. They have your name on a plaque. Did you know that? Maya's shoulders tensed. I didn't. They said you funded their new imaging equipment. That you come by every few months. That you remember people's names. He stepped closer. They said you're the reason they're still open. Maya finally turned. Marcus's eyes were red. I forgot who you were, he said. I forgot who I was. And I'm so sorry. She didn't move. I don't know if sorry is enough, Maya, but I need you to know I see you now. I see everything you've done. Everything you are. His voice broke. And I'm so proud of you I can't breathe. Maya's hands were shaking. I don't know if I can forgive you yet. I know. And I don't know if we're going to be okay. I know. She looked at him. Really looked. But I'm willing to try. If this story reminds you of someone you lost or almost lost, share it with them. Sometimes the people we love need to hear that they're still seen. 6 months later, Marcus resigned from his firm. He didn't go back to legal aid. Not exactly. But he started taking pro bono cases again. And he started showing up. To the foundation meetings. To the clinic visits. To the moments that mattered to Maya. They didn't fix everything overnight. Some things you can't. But one Saturday morning Maya came downstairs and found Marcus making breakfast. He looked up. "You good?" he asked. And for the first time in a long time. She smiled. "Yeah," she said. "I'm good." He smiled back. And when they sat down to eat, he reached across the table and held her hand. Like he used to. Like he should have all along. Thank you for spending this time with Golden Heart Stories. If this story moved you, please like and subscribe. Your support helps us keep telling stories that matter. What part of this story stayed with you the most? Let me know in the comments below. And remember, you are never too small to take up space. You are never too quiet to be heard. And you are never invisible. Not to the people who truly see you.